All right, so today we're going to take a look at how Freud described our personalities. So you've taken a lot of tests now, and we've started diving into different development theories of personality, how we attach to other people. And Freud really is the first person to ever try and describe our personality or come up with a concrete theory about what makes us who we are today. And so this dates all the way back to really the early 1900s is when he published a lot of his research and a lot of his theories about what makes us who we are. And you've seen a little bit of this before in our intro unit when we described Charlie Sheen's behavior and other people's behavior. Freud, of course, said what motivates them, what makes them who they are, is largely unconscious, right? We're not aware of why we are the way we are, and that a lot of it comes down to childhood. So kind of like attachment theory from last week, where we saw Harry Harlow and the strange situation test, right? Some experiments done to prove that how we attach to our parents early in life causes us to develop the way that we do. Freud said something very similar. He believed that you could use things like hypnosis, free association, dream analysis to get into our unconscious and to find out what's really driving our behavior, what's really making us who we are. So this picture here is from Freud's home. It's from his apartment where he did his therapy sessions. And when you think about like therapy and the couch, right, people laying down, speaking up into the air, that's what Freud really believed was the way to get into your unconscious. That if we talk face to face, I'll be too uncomfortable to say what I'm really thinking. But when I'm lying back on the couch, things might come out that really show what's really going on beneath the surface. And so that's how Freud described personality. He said it was kind of like an iceberg, right? Where there's a little bit on the top that we're maybe aware of why we do what we do, why we say what we say, but that most of it is repressed. Most of it is beneath the surface, like how most of an iceberg is unseen. And that every once in a while we might see some of our behavior kind of crop up, pop up, either in our dreams or in what he called Freudian slips, that we might start to learn the true reasons for our behavior. And so Freud has some really interesting ideas, including this thing called the Oedipus complex, which if you've heard of the book or read the book Oedipus Rex, he believed that early on, that attachment that we form with our parents isn't just like parent-child love. He actually believed that the feelings that we had for our parents was actually romantic, that as children, we wanted to actually marry our parent of the opposite sex. And that caused a lot of frustration for us, that caused basically the root of most of our problems. And we disliked the parent of the same sex because they got to be married to the person that we loved the most, right? So like I loved my father, hated my mother because my mother was married to my father. This is what Freud believed. And so he says that how we develop our personality, how we become the people that we are, is that we have to learn how to resolve this issue. This Oedipus complex that we have, that eventually we start to act like that parent that we don't like because we realize that if we can't beat them, we should join them. So if I can't beat my mother to marry my father, I should start acting like my mother. And that's how I develop my personality. And if I don't do that, I'm going to have problems for the rest of my life. So this is how Freud described our personality. He said that there's three major parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. And so the id is, you can basically think about it as like, I think that ID stands for I do what I want. It's the part of our personality from birth that just wants to do what's going to make us happy, that just wants to do what's enjoyable. And everything else doesn't really matter. It's like the part of us that wants to just lie on the couch all day, binge watching Tiger King and whatever else we want to do during that time. And he said that this is present from birth because when we're little, we don't think about what we should do. We think about what's going to make us the most comfortable. If I'm hungry, I cry. If I need my diaper changed, I cry, right? Babies are all just about comfort and immediate gratification. And so that's the first part of our personality that forms. And then as we grow and we start to encounter this Oedipus complex and these other problems where we're sort of fighting against our parents, we start to learn how we should act. And so that's our superego. So you can kind of think about the id and the superego as like the devil and the angel on the two shoulders, right? So on one side is the id that's saying you shouldn't do any schoolwork, you should just sleep all day and eat a bunch of Oreos. And the superego is the other side that's telling you what you should do. That's usually based on your parents' moral standards, how they raise you to act, how you should behave and act. And that these two parts of our personality are constantly in conflict, constantly fighting each other over how we should behave. And so then the last piece is our ego, and our ego is ourself. And so it's the one that has to balance the two sides. Sometimes our id is going to tell us, I don't want to do this. I want to do what's fun. I want to do what's enjoyable. Our superego on the other side is what's telling us, I should behave this way. I should do this. I should do what's the right thing to do, not necessarily what I want to do. And then the ego oftentimes has to come up with a compromise, right? So maybe it's, I don't want to do my work and I want to watch Tiger King all day because it's enjoyable. And so your ego might say, all right, let me get my work done first, and then I can go binge watch some Netflix. So it tries to come up with some type of balance between these two desires, and then how we choose to act is usually going to be some type of middle ground. Sometimes our id wins, right? Sometimes we do what we want to do and ignore what we should do, and sometimes our superego wins. But this is the constant conflict that Freud says that we are dealing with for our entire life. So when you watch the video here in a second, you'll see sort of a visual representation of the id, ego, and superego. It's a little bit of a weird video, but again, Freud had some really weird theories about what motivates our personality. But check it out, and then we'll see if you can identify these parts of the personality in different scenarios. Take a look.